Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is the show where we talk about the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of HeroClix. Wrapping up all of the origin stuff, I had the interview with Brad. That will be before this one, and then I fortunately have the lovely. I would say opportunity is the best way to put it, to talk to the HeroClix Mafia or Chicago Clicks Mafia.
Yeah.
And so they're on today's show. So go ahead and introduce yourselves there, please.
Sure. I'm Nate White, and with me are the national champion Patrick Frazier.
Hello.
And our sealed specialist and also top cut maker this year at Nationals, Ken Small.
Hello.
Yeah, I've known Kid for a couple of years now.
We've talked before.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's always a good face to see at conventions. So, yeah. So pretty much, you all have been, players for a while. I know Ken's been playing for a long while. So what made you all come up with, your team concept? Like, what started that?
I think it was at Worlds a couple years ago. It was back at Origins when they had Worlds and Nationals. I think it was 2017, Worlds and Nationals at the same event.
Yeah.
And Ken and Pat and I were all there, and Pat and I really got into the competitive, the meta event, and we came away with like the taste in our mouth to get real, to practice, to get better, to be as good as some of these guys that were like kicking the shit out of us at some of these events. And we felt like we had enough skill to compete if we got our shit together. So we decided that we would travel as much as we could to places within, an overnight trip. We went down to Lexington. We went down to Owensboro. We went out to Detroit. I drove down to Arkansas. We just started going to events really regularly and realized other people were making teams. We needed to be a team. And then Ken, so Pat and I sort of started it, and then Ken hadn't really been in the meta at that point. He was sort of playing mostly casual and collecting.
Semi-retired, I like to think of it.
Semi-retired, yeah. Not
from meta. I had done meta.
Yeah.
I had done meta from like 2008 to 2012, and never cracked into the upper echelon. And then around that time, 2012, 2013, the meta got stupid. I think Nate quit.
I did. I left the game for a year and a half. It was too much. I wasn't having fun, and also the meta wasn't really that diverse. I mean, it wasn't. At one point, Ed, were you the Worlds where there were Ghost Riders and Scarlet Witches and Brother Voodoos on pretty much a single team?
That was the year before I started going to big major events, but I did help practice with Daniel Joins when he won that one. But yeah, I know about that meta. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was painful, and the team bases were painful, but really why I left because I couldn't handle it. I rolled badly in a game and got so angry that I had for about 24 hours I was absolutely miserable, and I was like, you know what, Nate, you're too old for this shit. You can't.
You missed 4 5s?
I missed 4 5s on consecutive 2 on one turn, 2 on another turn, and then lost as a result. But yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff happens. So I learned if I was going to play the game, I had to be able to handle that, and that's.
So you brought Ken back on, and so he became your unorthodox will, so to speak, I guess.
Well, Ken's the godfather of CLIX in Chicago, Pat, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Ken's
I've been playing since
fathering
time.
Right. Earliest adopter, the guy who teaches everybody, the guy who runs events, the guy who
wins all the events.
Wins every event.
I've started up 2 venues.
Yeah,
for
and
time.
and his record against me is about 70%, at least. Ken, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I'm there to throw a wrench in your crazy team ideas. But I
Yes,
see you before you've worked out the kinks too, so that's not a fair assessment.
right,
I'm running against the beta versions.
right, right. So
I definitely understand about that. With the locals usually in Kansas City end up going against my beta versions of stuff, and my rule is if it doesn't do well in locals, it's not going to do well on at a bigger event. So they actually help me refine my stuff down. So but go ahead.
oh no, that's just so yeah. Ken came back, and he sort of came back as a sealed guy, right? Ken, and with a little like toe in the meta, but not entirely in love with playing full bore meta. Couldn't really travel as much as Pat and I were able to, and
I couldn't travel. I couldn't get as familiar with the meta, and so I'd make teams. I'd go to events like nationals. I'd play a little in the grinders or whatever, and then I'd just say, "This is past me." So I think I've been warming up to it over the last year.
and then
Okay.
Last year I almost entered nationals. This year, I did well. I was still kind of playing hard to get though, but really I had a team packed and ready to go.
Yeah.
yeah, he wasn't going to play in nationals. He wasn't going to do grinders. He didn't feel like it, right? So
Yeah.
we had to qualify. Pat and I were like, all right, Ken, we'll go. We'll play well in sealed, and we ended up in finishing well enough in sealed that we qualified Ken, and then he went and made the cut. So
And then it's like I got no reason not to play.
yeah.
Hey, I mean, there we go. If you make the cut, I mean, that's the main reason. You have to play just to see how you would do. Because at worst you lose, at best you come out with some swag. That's how I look at it. So Patrick, real quick. So I know everybody's going to ask you, it's like when you start the game and what made you get into the game and all that. They can listen to the other interviews for that. What motivates your style of play? Because I heard my teammates say Patrick is a very aggressive style player. So what motivates you, or what you see on the board when you're putting a team together or when you're playing a team?
Well, I just want to beat Ken and Nate is basically what it comes down to. I play them a lot, and I want to beat them.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's like that.
This is where Pat ought to mention that Nate's record against me is Pat's record. My record against Pat. Pat beats me like 3/4 of the time we play.
Yeah, we got kind of a circle going, and Nate owns me.
Okay, so you all are the recycle, reduce, reuse of the competitive sphere against each other. That's pretty cool. But like definitely sort of looking at your nationals team, you have Hawkeye, which a lot of people have talked about. You have Vulture. I have one of my people I know that says peanut butter and peanut butter together for a super peanut butter sandwich.
Yep.
Most people would stop at one. Why go with both?
Yes. Because they can both keep attacking. You can throw one away. If your Hawkeye dies and you're playing just Hawkeye with a bunch of giant girls, you're in trouble. Probably you still have Star Fox. But what you're trying to do with it changes. If you're running Vulture and Hawkeye and one of them goes down, you're still doing the same thing, perplexing them up and having them shoot everybody or punch everybody.
Mm-hmm. So that is a very interesting thing, because I know for me, having been an Avengers player, like the whole idea that most people, I always know when I face a bad Avengers player versus a good Avengers player, because a bad Avengers player will always try to save Hawkeye through some miracle and pray that everything happens. And then if Hawkeye does win, they'll try backing him up. Versus the good Avengers player was like, oh, Hawkeye's still alive? I'm going to do this one more time, and I don't care because I've scored more than enough points.
Right.
And so... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just get your 65 points. You know.
Yeah, like I've gotten more than my 65 points. But the interesting thing I've definitely seen with the vulture dynamic is that everybody just was designing like one turns with vulture. So it's like vulture goes out there, he one turns your team, GG, have fun, that's it. And so for me, when I look at the two together, I sort of see like, all right, Hawkeye goes out, starts things up. If Hawkeye dies, things have gotten and progressed to the midfield, and then Vulture ends the game. Is that sort of like how it went, or am I close?
In a lot of cases, sometimes you switch around depending on the situation. Maybe you send Vulture out first. You would kind of just read what the field was like, but you don't need both of them at the end.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, I'm gonna sort of go back, sort of to the team dynamic. How did you all practice for Nats? Like, what did you all do to get yourselves ready for the tournament?
Pat and I play online a lot, and then Ken was running a Sunday meta game that, at least in the roll up to Nats, I was able to get out to a couple times. Pat was able to get out to, and Ken was able to play at, obviously, most of the time. So we had two sort of spots, and then I play online against everybody that I can. Like I got a chance to play online against Easton beforehand, and I got a chance to play online against Tyler and Dan Powell, and just as many good. That roll 20 is a hell of a thing for getting practice. So that was my prep, and I did poorly, so I shouldn't have prepped that way, apparently.
No, it's definitely the best way to prep. I think the roll 20 and those tournaments they do, you get to play such great players that you wouldn't see on a weekly basis, from your house. So you can do it. You don't have to travel 6 hours. You can go ahead. I played against and lost Ed Arnold Berkovitz. I got to play up against Dan Powell. I've played against a lot of great players just doing those Winamaps online.
Caleb, yeah, Steve DiCarlo, all those guys play those Winamaps on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yeah, there's a high caliber of skill that you can go against in roll 20, and so I would more along the lines. I've been saying this for a while. Is that roll 20 has been the grand equalizer for people to get good, and that you can have people come out of just about anywhere and then be like super great and develop their skills because of roll 20. And I sort of use Tyler as my grand example of that. Is that Tyler sort of was playing a lot of roll 20, and then bam, he's your world champion because he spent time, lots of time refining his team down. And so I think like roll 20 is that tool that I would say it doesn't give no one has the excuse of, I live in this country, I live in this area, no one plays CLIX around me. You could get on roll 20. You can get on the rock roll 20 and play somebody. Yeah. So if we're going back, and you had local play balance, you have online play balance, is just in your experiences, in all three of your experiences, is there anything else that you sort of just wish you had as a development tool, or just like, man, I wish I had this other thing to help me get better?
I'll say two things.
Mm-hmm.
First is, with my Sunday games here, I don't tend to play top level folks because it's locals, and Nate and Pat can't make it. But I think I've been trying to develop more good players around here and seeing people step up their game. So what I want to do is I want to make Chicago an epicenter of really great players. It's not just the Chicago CLIX Mafia or us guys and whoever else we pick up along the way. I want to pick up a lot of players who I know are decent, pretty good, and get them to that next stage. So that we've got face-to-face real challenges. And then the other thing I want is technical, which is I want somebody who's more organizationally skilled than I am and technologically skilled to build an open source CLIX database so we can get off the Realms database and have something. It seems like all the data is there, and I want something that we don't have to wait weeks behind lagging data.
A team building app would be a great team building app would be so good.
I like the app I got. I just don't like the fact that the data is always out of date, and it could be better.
Right.
Yeah, I will.
This is a call
I agree with that.
out there. Somebody with database skills. Let's dump the data we have. Let's crowdsource the inputting of dials, and let's take it to the next step. Because the problem with Realms is that I love the Realms, but the owner of the Realms doesn't play the game, isn't that invested in it. Things take a long time to update.
Well, okay, and I've said this in the past, and my problem with Realms is Realms doesn't update. All of the mods that are there, they're supposed to put in the data and whatever, aren't really compensated for doing any of the work. So it doesn't get done. And then Tony goes and begs for more money. And it's just like, well, why? Like, why are we going to give you money? It doesn't give us any reason. And so then when the data gets hacked and copied off of the database, now he's super protective of the data, but won't do anything to keep anyone there. And I mean, we've all sort of said it for years. Like, once the Facebook groups came into existence, Realms was going to go under. I think also what caused Realm to go under was Tony's lack of ability to work with emerging creators. It was going down since I started. So it's been almost 10 years. Okay. Not only that, he wouldn't moderate people that were just being jerks. He didn't stop the casual versus hardcore war that was going on. If you remember before Rock, like back when Daniel Jones won his first world championship, Steve and Gouda were a complete pain in the butt. And I bring this up repeatedly to just remind people, Steve does all our maps, if folks don't understand that. Our Rock maps plus our WizKids maps, they're all done by Steve. And Steve said he's super casual and he hates competitive people. And so, and he said it multiple times on his show. If you go back and listen to the archives, when it was Steve and Gouda hosting CLIXcast.
I couldn't listen to it back then.
Yeah.
I picked it up when it was when Jeremiah cycled in, and then Steve cycled out, and new people cycled in.
Yeah, Jeremiah was like the transition to I can sort of stomach this sometimes because he wasn't a dink. But Realms as a whole hasn't done anything to cultivate the community to stay around it. And Facebook groups, as many as they are, they functionally just sorted everybody based off of intent and opinions and tolerance. And so because Tony wouldn't let, what had to be done, everyone left Realms and only really uses it as a technical database. And if he doesn't keep that up, then there's no reason for anyone to show up. And like I said, I'm right there with you, Ken. I've been praying for somebody to deliver us and bring us a whole new database of information. And I don't know why it hasn't happened.
They just need the framework. We've got plenty of people who would eagerly enter and double check dials.
Right.
The people who are active playing the game want the data to be right.
Right. And that's the other thing with Realms of, have you ever had a problem like, and this happened to me. Everybody has a story about dealing with the win, with the judging. Everybody has a win story. My problem is that when Realms is wrong with a power and you go and ask a question on the win will not respond to you and say, this is not what the power says, the power says this, they'll kick it back to you and say, your wording of your question is incorrect. So there's a ton of grief that's just generated by Realms, because if Realms isn't properly checked or updated, that on the other end, the win will not respond properly whatsoever. But yeah, I can definitely rant on that all day. I'm 100% with new competition. So let's sort of come back in, and I'll ask the follow-up question to traveling. Is there any place that you all want to go? Like, if money and time and space wasn't an issue, what type of venues would you love to hit up?
I want to play in overseas. I would love to play in Brazil. Well, I know it's not overseas. It's but it's on another continent. Or in England or Italy or anywhere that there's a scene. I'd like to go down to Puerto Rico. Somewhere
to Canada.
The U.S. Yeah.
Going to Canada, that's excellent. I same here. I would like to hit California. I listened to a couple podcasts out that way. Their scene seems like it was hot for a while, and maybe it's not now. I don't keep up, so not meaning to offend any California players, but I'd love to play out that way. I'd love to hit the East Coast as well. Yeah, I'd like to travel all over the time, and it's less about money and time for me. It's hard to take a whole weekend off to play CLIX, to do the traveling like Nate and Pat do, but I'm preserving more blocks of time for it.
All right, I was hoping this year was going to be my year to go to South Africa Nats, but they canceled South Africa Nats, and then yeah, unfortunately, and then the comedy of mishaps that's limited my economy a bit. But yeah, I saw like China was one, and I don't know if it's the Great Firewall of China that stops us from knowing about their community or just a language issue, but I would love to see what they're playing. I really would.
That'd be awesome. That would be really fun. Yeah. I don't know. It seems like CLIX would be a really great common language. It would be relatively easy to. I mean, when Pat and I practice, and of course this is two people who practice all the time, but we don't use voice. We just use text, and we generally don't type what we're doing unless it's, like we say who we're attacking, but generally it's just you just sidestep stuff. I know what he's doing. He doesn't have to tell me. I play heroclix, so I don't.
When we play in person, we don't even talk to each other. We don't even look each other in the eyes.
I can't stand to look him in the eye, honestly.
Right. You guys aren't even on speaking terms, as I understand it.
Exactly.
Oh wow. This needs to be a comedy routine on the road somewhere. But still,
I also got an ace trolling game. I just want to say.
All right, there we go. I know everybody is sort of have their ups and downs about Memphis being the new place for the World Championship, and I know it's like we just had Nats, and then in 2 months we're going to have Worlds. What do you all think about Memphis being the World Championship this year in the time of year?
I'm personally happy about it. Philly was a little too late in the year and a little too far for me last year. This year, I'm going to be there with bells on, loaded to go. And, Memphis is a nice town.
Okay.
So I like it. I like it. It's also, it's closer for me, so that's selfish, but.
Yeah. I know about that. What about you, Pat?
Well, I think it's definitely better than, was it 2017 where it was, back-to-back and in the same place? I think Dustin Cedars won that national, and he, had about a day to rest on, and then he had to go play Worlds the next day. So I do like them separating it from the same convention. So I think I like it in Memphis. Not bad.
Okay. What about you, Nate?
I'm glad it's in Memphis. I just wish they'd say exactly where so people could booking
Yeah,
things.
no doubt.
It seems crazy to me. I don't understand how to run a business. I can't. I don't have it for business. I don't know what motivates the WizKids people, but I feel like we're here and we want to love them, and they won't let us love them properly and their game. You know,
That's like poetry.
yeah, we want to go in force to these events, but we are working class people who can't. We don't just take off at the drop of a hat, all of us, and just go to some place that's for 4 days. We need time to plan vacations and that sort of thing. And it seems like everybody else can do it. What's going on at WizKids that they can't plan a convention in? I mean, Kenny runs a tight convention. I think I have no beef, and I really think he takes things in a nice direction, and he listens, which is a hell of a thing. But there's something going on. They need to fix it. They need to take. Well, maybe they don't give a shit, but if they do give a shit and they're trying to love us, we're not feeling that love.
Yeah, my opinion on Memphis is I'm glad where it's at. It is convenient for me. The time of year, I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag because you're coming off of a holiday, and now it's like, all right, and now I'm back out again, to try to do something in that week. And for most people, school is starting or just has started to gear up. So it starts to become a little bit rougher from my, history of dealing with those things for people to start pull away from family. Definitely when kids need to get back to the routine of going to school instead of,
Agreed.
staying up late and, running around the house, drinking sodas at the middle of the night. I won't say that from experience, but I've heard.
I've heard parents do that somewhere. Yeah,
I've heard about that somewhere. But
it's tough that it's then, but later, last year it was it first week of December or is it in November?
It technically was like the last day of November plus the first day of December, but yeah.
So that's even harder for family time. That's when you're right between Christmas and Thanksgiving and all the holiday break time. So that wasn't good either. I do agree.
There's something. Oh, I'm sorry, Ken. Go ahead.
I feel like WizKids learns about 2 years after the messages start getting sent out. Like the rock was rolling for a couple of years before they started to figure out how to work with it. 2-3 years. So they're always lagging. So maybe if we make this message over and over again, they'll get it sorted out in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nate.
I was just going to say that there's people like me. I mean, I am old enough. I am divorced, so I only have my children half the time, which means some weekends I can't travel, but some weekends I got no responsibility whatsoever. And so I am I'm at a spot where I'm financially comfortable enough to make the trip and get a cheap ass hotel. I mean, I've stayed in some real scary places, but this is not fancy travel. This is get in the car and drive and grind and get back and drive back before bedtime that night, that kind of thing. But not everybody. And then so wherever WizKids puts Worlds, I'll go. And whenever they announce it, if they were like, all right, we moved it to next week and it's going to be in, Naples, Florida, I'd be like, come on, Pat and Ken, I don't know if you can make it or not, but I know me and Pat would be there because, well, maybe not Pat because he probably has a wedding to go to, but I would be there.
I'll go to Naples.
Next week, though, like next week, like I am lucky enough and I've, I get help with the children when I need to change weekends. My ex-wife is extraordinarily accommodating, so I'm wherever they're going to put it, I'll put it. So they don't have to work hard to earn me as a fan, but I'd like to see them be nicer to everybody else.
I agree. I think one of the elements for me is I would like to know the venue, because they are doing pretty much Rock in Atlanta back again. Okay, that's what WizKids is doing, which I like. I classically have said, I wish Howard had Rock still in, Atlanta in a hotel. I just like the idea of, oh, I left my stuff in the hotel.
Yeah.
Give me a second. I need to run upstairs to my room.
Going back to your room between, like when your game's over in 20 minutes and you got like 40 minutes before the next round just to go back to your hotel room and, just fiddle around and go back. It's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a good deal of convenience in that. So, fortunately, for my teammates, I do most of the administrative stuff. And unfortunately for most of my teammates, I'm like sitting there yelling in Discord, like, when are they going to tell us stuff so I can plan this and get the money? And it's, so yeah, like that hustle is real for me. So let's sort of go and, is there a location that you all would want Worlds to be at? I know Origins, like the way things are now, Origins will never change. It's too much of a win for WizKids. With this current move with Worlds being in Memphis, this sort of indicates to me that Worlds can move now. It can go anywhere. So if it stays in the same time of year, where would you want Worlds
Come
to
where
be
the
at?
come where the champ lives. Come to Chicago.
Chicago, Illinois. That's where it should be.
Okay, I have 2 votes for Chicago. Nate, are you going to third that?
No, I would say we should put it somewhere really, really uncomfortable. No, yeah, Chicago, man, absolutely. It's a good town. It's accessible easily. There's plenty of places we could put it. Yeah, absolutely, Chicago.
There's a million hotels, conference centers, etc.
And only it's very unlikely that you'll get robbed. It's very unlikely. I mean,
I've never been robbed.
1 in 10
where the
attendees.
convention centers are.
I've seen less than 5 shootings.
Yes, it's.
Oh, dude, you have gotten G points for me, sir.
I wish that was a joke.
No,
I've seen less than 1.
Yeah, I've seen less than 1 as well. But Pat lives.
I live in a rougher area than they do.
Just to let everybody know, if I've brought it up in the past, like I have family in Chicago, so I've spent a good part of my life up in Chicago. So for him to say I've seen less than 5 shootings,
yeah,
that's a statement.
It's a horrifying fact of Chicago. It's the most embarrassing thing about our town is that we can't protect the kids in certain neighborhoods.
But the pizza's great.
And that it's so.
Thank you.
Yes, and it's so night and day. The same.
Yeah, the neighborhood I live in,
most cities, and the dangerous parts are more dangerous than most cities.
Right.
Yeah, I will also say I said thank you about the pizza. I am all for Chicago style pizza, where it's like an inch to 2 inch high pizza, and the crust is literally a pie.
And we only eat it when you guys come to visit. We never go get it on our own. Someone has to come visit you for you to eat Chicago style pizza.
I just before this call had some delicious thin crust pizza that looks like every other pizza in the country.
No,
I eat Chicago style pizza with some regular. The problem is it takes a little bit longer, like 15 minutes longer to deliver it because it takes longer to cook. So when you want a pizza, you want it now, and you don't want to wait 20 extra minutes. So yeah,
I could eat them, but I have to eat them sparingly because the last time I had a really good one, which was in Oklahoma, by the way, the guy used to live in Chicago, so that's why it was legit. My body said, you can try this again, but we can't guarantee you'll see tomorrow. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to put this down.
That's fair.
Considering I ate half a pizza by myself, that was
God, that's
that
good
was a
work.
Live to
mistake.
tell the tale.
Yeah, I did. If anyone's impressed by that, I will probably set up a Patreon for let's see how long Edward can live eating Chicago style pizza.
Yeah.
All right, so currently right now we're in a cosmic meta. I'll just flat out say it. A lot of the top figures are coming with the cosmic keyword.
I heard somebody just won a WKO with a cosmic team, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, and then Pat just shit stomped my team today with the new team that he built based off of my team. That's better.
Nice. But Nate, you should boast up your team. Astronomer,
Oh,
Flora's.
it's good. It works great. Yeah, cosmic is the thing. I mean, the fact is, I can think about 5 different ways to build a cosmic team from the foundation up. All of them would be good. All would be competitive. You could feature Unimind. I don't think he's done yet. You can feature Collector. You can feature Star Fox. You can the options are endless. And has there ever been a keyword this good in the meta? Not that I can remember, but I don't
Long ago, Mr.
Yeah, I was going to say classic mystical and scientist used to be this good.
Okay, yeah.
So we're talking 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, not that far because keywords aren't that old, are they?
Yeah, they are. We're all old now.
Started with Arkham, didn't they?
No, keywords started with the first carded set in 2007, Avengers.
Avengers, right.
Yeah, it did.
Card.
12 years ago.
Oh gosh, I forgot about that. And then the retroactive
retroactively applied
keywords. Yeah.
That must have taken some time. That's good work.
It was a good thing they did.
Yeah,
it was. But
we were all skeptical it would happen, and then they did it.
Yeah, and back when they made the mistake about JLA versus Justice League,
Justice League of America.
Yeah, that whole mistake.
The Avengers have no such problem.
I know, and neither does Justice League now.
Yeah,
for a long time it was bad.
Yeah, that's what really stopped Justice League from being playable for a long while. So
just don't make DC sets.
Yeah, they just don't really. Okay, all right. So let's get into this, and I have 3 willing opinions. Do you think there needs to be like a reevaluation of the sets, about like what type of sets we're getting? Because currently we're getting majority Marvel, 1 DC, if we're lucky, 2 DC sets a year, and then like 1.5 rando. That can be Turtles, that can be Star Trek, that can be, whatever mystical undead thing like they did with RIP.
Give me 2 solid DC sets a year and I'm set, personally. And for Marvel, maybe a little less Avengers focus, but I figure that's Marvel's marketing department knowing where their money lies. But I liked Earth X because it was a stealth Spider-Man set, and I'm waiting for the Fantastic Four set that's got to be brewing somewhere,
someplace, somehow. How about you, Pat? What's your thoughts on?
I think what it's kind of beholden to the not so much WizKids, but yeah, the DC and Marvel licensing, right? That's probably why there's only 1 DC set that comes out a year. But yeah, I would like to see focus on some other stuff. I really enjoyed the Thor set. It was fun getting some Asgardians out there. But yeah, I'd like to see maybe a little more variety when Marvel drops their sets.
All right, Nate, your thoughts.
Marvel rules, DC drools. No, I'm just kidding. I think like Pat. I'm good with whatever. These are just numbers to me. I don't really care what pieces I'm playing. Astronomer's my favorite piece. Who the fuck is Astronomer, Like I don't know in the comic books at all. He's an elder of the universe, but not one of the ones that I learned about the first time I read about the elders of the universe. So I love the game because The characters are cool, but it doesn't matter what universe they come from to me. It's every new set is a blessing, and I'm happy to get it. I'm really excited about the Star Trek set, so I'll take whatever they feel like making.
Star Trek is it's a mixed bag for me because I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's sort of cool, and then I don't buy it, and then like 3 months later, it's like, oh, I need that piece now.
Yeah,
It's $30 and it's a rare.
When we're done here, I have some on my sale list that we can talk.
He conveniently has that bridge I need to buy, which actually is a thing in Chicago, but we won't go there. But
that's New York.
Oh no, it's like there's some places outside of Chicago you could buy a bridge.
Well, so I'll sell you the bridge.
Yeah. So I know, Nate, you can't say what figures you want to make or are going to make or any of those things. What type of figures do you like, or a general team ballpark of things that you quote unquote like, so you don't violate some magical contract and I don't have a lawyer after my show here?
For me, the things I won't play would be the things that are so rare that people can't get their hands on them without. I mean, I don't mind some super rares. I don't even mind some chases. But ultra chases I won't play. I wouldn't play Lockjaw when he was $300. And I won't play anything that somebody else has sort of unlocked. You know, something that somebody else has solved and plays it beautifully. What would be the point of me playing the same notes? You know. So I want to use pieces that either haven't been featured in a certain way, or that make people scratch their head and go, why would you use that piece? And then after they play me, they go, oh, okay, that's why. That's my thoughts about what I like to build with and what I like to avoid when I'm building.
Okay, how about you, Pat?
Well, as far as making figures, I don't think they do that anymore. Nobody's approached me.
Oh, that's over.
So I don't think I even have to worry about any of that.
I thought there's still a nomination phase or something.
No, I haven't talked to anybody at WizKids, but I think they might have stopped that last year. I know I saw that I think the Mexican national winner made Prez, and they got to nominate stuff, but I don't know if they still do that anymore, or at least they didn't tell me.
Let's just say you still had that ability.
I would want to make. I've said this before. I would make a space shark from Jason Aaron's Thor run. It's like a generic. Well, basically, what it sounds like. It's like a shark that's in space.
It says it all in the name.
Yeah, wow. He's just a space shark.
Wow. That I wasn't expecting that. Okay.
I like Jason Aaron's Thor run.
Space sharks. All right. You are now forcing me to use Google. So Ken, if you could could make a figure,
I've had a long-standing desire to make the third-tier Wonder Woman villain Angleman, who existed briefly in the Bronze Age and has popped up a couple times since. He's got cool powers. He has an awful outfit. I love villains in terrible costumes. I was very excited when they made the Melter, for instance. Perhaps the worst costume in CLIX. But
a good piece, though.
Yeah, and then on the Marvel side, I've often said I always wanted to make the Aquarian, who's the featured character in the Project Pegasus saga from Marvel 2-in-1, the Thing team-up comic that I loved as a kid. So I like my obscure Silver and Bronze Age guys in terrible outfits.
Man, screw you.
That's why we like Taskmaster. Isn't that why we all like Taskmaster?
Yeah, I'm looking at these space sharks right now. Really?
Yeah.
Really? He rides a space shark.
I think I need
Yeah, I mean,
that.
that's all it is. It's just a shark in space.
I think I really do need that.
Oh gosh, I I sort of wish you were making this up, but it's not. It's actually a thing.
It's
Now
for
everyone
real.
listen and go Google it.
Okay, yeah, man. That wow. Is it? I guess it would have to have passenger because, yeah.
You can
Yeah,
ride
you can
'em.
ride a space shark. Thor rides a space shark.
Or Thor rides a space shark. Okay, this has been enlightening. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up before I diatribe to someplace I don't want to go. Uh, Real quick, any shout outs you all have to anybody, anything within reason that won't get me flagged by the algorithm?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Our brand new member of the Chicago CLIX Mafia, Brandon Collette. You got a top 4
Welcome, Brandon.
finish at the. You knocked me out at top 8 at the South Bend Whiz Kids Open. We're glad to have him. Newest member, Brandon Collette.
Yeah.
Congrats. You're up there, and I will say this: recruiting people and developing people, like it's definitely noteworthy. Ken, your shout outs.
I want to shout out to the locals who are all upping their game. They're looking at Pat and Nate and seeing that locals can make good, and they're trying stuff out. I got Gautam, Eric, Mike, Phil, and we got a couple new guys, Tyler and Alex, who showed up. I know I've forgotten somebody, and I'm going to get zinged for it. But we've got just a number of people coming around, trying to put in the game, trying to up their A game a little bit more. And one of these guys is going to be, next year at this time, they're going to be in this circle talking about what they did and how they shot so high.
All right, that's what's up. And Nate, any shout outs?
I just realized I answered a question you didn't ask last time, but I'll answer the question you did ask this time.
Okay.
And say, shout out. The guy gets talked about all the time, but the spirit of lending heroclix is a beautiful thing. And PJ Boland lends clicks like nobody else. And I borrowed half my team from him to be able to play in the event yesterday, and he wasn't even going. And Stephen Clark brought PJ's stuff for me and a bunch of stuff for other players, including Pat. It's just a real nice thing, and I'm always glad to lend to people when they need to borrow something that I have. So shout out to PJ and Steven and the people who are generous with their stuff. It makes it easier for everybody to play the team that is the best thing they could possibly play that day.
Yes, and that's a big thing. I definitely tell folks, definitely when people start in Phoenix Nest, that I usually tell them, it's like, look, I don't want you to feel like you're limited by pieces. It's not like you don't have a whole team worth of people with a ton of figures just sitting there that won't be used. It's like you have a King Shark build. More than likely, someone's going to have a King Shark for you to borrow if you don't have it.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
So yeah, I also want to before I wrap this up, I also want to note this is the second time I've had Ken on the show. He may not have remembered it, but if
I
anyone,
remember. That's why I said you spoke before. It was long time back.
Long time back. It was like single digits, I think, in the show. So that's how long it's been. That's how long it's been. So he's in the few, the proud, the two-timers on the show. Excellent. So. All right, so that's it for today's show. I'd like to thank my guest, the Chicago CLIX Mafia, for coming on. You can follow me on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space, and it told me, yo, man, it just came and told me there's no space sharks out there, and I'm really glad because, again, looking at this, I would not want to deal with space sharks. So you can follow me on Twitter because YouTube hates YouTubers. You'll know immediately when my show is out because Twitter works faster than the notification button. So yeah, there you go. You can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. Keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, baby. Let me know what do you think about Worlds being in Memphis, and and I'll even add in a bonus question. What do you think about the World Con LEs? You can donate to the show by going over to startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. On there is a donate button. And last but not least, if you want to hire my assistance for practice and play testing, trying to get better, you can email me and contact me. It is $5 for a game and $15 for a standard coaching session. I'm sort of trying to bring that stuff back up. I have this interview. If you haven't listened to the interview with Brad, that should be the previous video. So go watch that. And again, I'm really glad to be able to do this interview. So like always, we all have to start over sometime.